Right, it's been a hot past couple of days, and that's not making it any easier on kids trying to adjust going back to school. But it is important that our kids stay safe during recess, after school activities and sports, even on long walks home from school. To tell us warnings of heat illness in kids, I'm talking with a pediatrician with UTHealth Houston, Dr. Rebecca Beyda. Good morning. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about signs of heat illness in kids. Is it different in children? Are there different warning signs that they're overheated?
Definitely.
Okay.
So we know with kids, they have a lower capacity to sweat, and then they also have a higher metabolic rate. So heat illness in kids can look really differently than with adults.
And is that just specifically, I know like with young kids, that can be a real problem with them regulating their temperature, but does that go all the way up through the teen years too?
It can,
Okay.
definitely. And so the things we really want to look out for with heat illness include signs of heat exhaustion or heat stroke, which is the most serious.
And what are those signs?
Yes, so with heat exhaustion, initially the kids might start complaining of feeling dizzy or tired, and you'll see a lot of sweating and flushing. The most serious concerning sign for heat stroke is if they have an elevated body temperature over 104 and they have some mental status changes. So those can be really worrisome, such as confusion and an unsteady gait, even irritability, and then worst of all, coma.
Oh my gosh, that would, yeah. So just by touch, we should be able to tell that their temperature is like too hot.
Right, so initially with that heat exhaustion, what you'll see is they might feel sweaty, cold, and clammy. And with heat stroke, they might stop sweating, but they'll feel really warm to touch.
Okay. And what are we supposed to do if we notice these signs? Is it enough to just get them to drink water? Sometimes it's hard to get kids to drink water, right?
It's definitely hard to get them to drink water, but yes, that is the number one thing to prevent it, is being hydrated. And so those risk factors, if kids are sick or if they're dehydrated at baseline, then it's even more important to get them to prevent the heat illness. And so taking breaks every 10 to 15 minutes to drink 4 to 8 ounces of water is really important. And then also wearing breathable clothing and even sunscreen before they leave out of the door for school.
Yeah, I'm thinking of middle schoolers in their sweatshirts. It's really hard to peel those off of them, isn't it?
It is, I know, because the inside
But that's so dangerous.
So
Yeah.
Yes, but they need to have breathable things on, especially when they're outside.
Yeah, for these days of summer, yeah. So have you actually seen this as an issue in your clinic this year? Have people shown signs of heat exhaustion, kids?
Yes, and so I think with heat illness, they can even start with something like a heat rash. And so I've seen kids come in complain of, every time I go outside, I get itchy or break out. But certainly those other signs, we're really watching and making sure that kids don't overheat and explore these other worse signs.
So I guess that brings up the question too, like if people are coming in with heat rash, should they come in to see their doctor if they've experienced some kind of a heat-related illness?
Definitely, you can, and you can also take steps yourself to really prevent that. And I think just being mindful is the most important thing. But certainly if they've had heat rash, heat cramps, some kids will have heat syncope, just pass out from the heat. So those would definitely be signs that you would want to go see your doctor for.
I know you don't always want to give kids sports drinks, but in this case, is it okay?
So really, cold water is the best, but certainly if they're outside, especially more than an hour, then electrolyte replacement is helpful.
Because with younger kids, they also worry about having too much sodium in the drinks too. It's not just the sugar, but it's the sodium too, right?
Right. So, I mean, there's a fine balance, but certainly some hydration is better than nothing. So just trying to encourage them to stay hydrated, and cold water, again, is the best.
Yeah, or a cold shower or a hose if you're outside, something to just cool your body quickly.
Precisely, because kids have that lower sweating capacity. And unfortunately here in Houston, sweat doesn't work as well. Like, we want sweat to evaporate, and that's what cools our body. But with this high heat index, the high humidity, sweat just isn't as efficient.
Oh yeah, I can attest to that. So what are some of the best practices? Like, what should we tell our kids to be doing? Hey, when you're at recess, make sure you're doing this, that, or the other. What would you recommend? What do you tell your kids?
Of course. So water is number one. Taking those breaks every 10 to 15 minutes, making sure they're wearing cool clothing. clothing. And then there's things we can do to help protect them, like making sure that the schools are paying attention to the heat index and not having recess outside when that heat index is over 105.
But please have some kind of a recess so they don't come home like wild animals.
Hopefully early in the day or when it's not quite as hot.
Absolutely. Dr. Beyda, that was all good information. Is there anything else that you want people to know about heat problems?
Yes, I think to know that most of heat problems are preventable. So making sure you stay hydrated, don't play when you're sick, and make sure that you're really staying on top of all of those preventive factors.
Excellent information. Dr. Rebecca Beyda, we appreciate your time this morning.